Welcome to a very special podcast today with Josh Kline, who's the CEO of Scripto. Hey, Josh, welcome.
Hello, Tool. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for joining us today. As you know, this goes out to all the Vitrina members. 72,000 folks within our community, all leaders within the entertainment supply chain, and they're very keen to know about what you've been up to and what Scripto is inventing next. So hope to have a very exciting conversation with you today. How's just as we start off? How's IBC for you?
Well, it was good. First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Happy to be a part of the Vitrina Network. It's really, I think, fantastic group that you've assembled here. And so
Thank
I
you.
appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and share this with your network. IBC was great. I'd gone several years, as had a lot of people, pandemic and all, hadn't been to IBC in a few years. So it was great to return and see a lot of familiar faces that I hadn't seen in a minute. Really good to connect with some of our European partners and customers and prospective customers. It's always nice to be there in person, right? Sometimes showing up is a big part of it, and so I like to be there in person when I can.
That's true. That's true. And again, IBC is also a platform to not only sort of meet great people, but also lots of innovations, especially on the tech side. But one aspect to get us started straight off is would be great if you could actually sort of set the context on Scripto, just the genesis of it, and what would an elevator pitch sound like
Sure.
as you describe the product and solution.
Sure. So I've got a few pitches depending on how tall the building is
Okay.
for the elevator. The simplest one is I refer to it as the operating system for scripted media production.
Hmm.
So that's one floor. If we get
That was quick. Yeah.
if we get a slightly taller building, Scripto is at the front end a collaborative script writing platform. So if you think about the dominant script writing software in the media and entertainment industry is Final Draft, the company I used to work at. And but that's single user downloadable desktop software. So Scripto would be something akin to Final Draft meets Google Docs.
Ah.
So it enables an entirely different set of use cases and opens up all sorts of possibilities about sharing not just the script, but the underlying data that carries with it, metadata, associated data. There are so many people in the media and entertainment supply chain on any given production.
That's right.
And as we used to say at Final Draft, it all starts with the script, but when you have single user downloadable desktop software, it also ends with the script. When you've got a live data platform where the writing is happening, and you've got the ability to share that data with other stakeholders throughout the supply chain, it just opens up so many more use cases, much more efficiency throughout the entire production, distribution, and marketing process. So that's the basic description of Scripto. It's collaborative writing at the front end.
Okay.
It's transforming script-based data into things like rundowns, like a run of show, or breakdowns, which is the information that department heads need, and that gets turned into budgets and schedules, and then everything downstream from there: marketing, distribution, archival, things like that.
And then the moment you talked about the fact that it's on cloud, it's collaborative, it's real time, and it's got all kinds of collaborative sort of tooling to
Yeah,
bring.
I'll go to the genesis of it, so because it puts a fine point on why there's a need for it.
That's right.
Scripto was originally created by Stephen Colbert of The Late Show and his team, because they have a show that they need to write and produce every day. And previous to Scripto, that was individual writers writing in final draft or in a writer's room with a script coordinator or a writer's assistant typing into final draft while a bunch of writers are just like hitting this person with like jokes and lines and things like that. And it was just very inefficient. And then by the time you get to producing that day's show, you're creating a thing called a rundown, which is a run of show. And every industry that produces media has got a version of this. Narrative, scripted, film, and TV have something called a breakdown. Variety type shows have a rundown. Award shows, corporate events, they have a rundown or a run of show. So anytime you've got a script that ends up being produced in a live environment or recorded for distribution, you've got the written word, and then you've got instructions for everybody else. And there was just no good way to do that several years ago. And so one of Stephen Colbert's writers, who's quite technical, suggested to Stephen that they actually create their own.
Whoa.
So they hired a couple of engineers and they started building out Scripto version 1, which wasn't cloud-based. It was land-based. And it sufficed. It did the job, and it actually allowed them to produce a show much more efficiently. And it's not that they got to finish work earlier because it's a daily show. What it does, it allows those team members, those writers and producers, to do more work. To do, and if you're producing a quality show and you're professional writers and producers, everybody wants more time. So those teams have more time to produce a higher quality show, which ultimately those shows tend to win the Emmys. They're all nominated for the Emmys. They tend to win the Emmys. And it's not because they're inherently better writers and producers, although I would say that writers and producers who use Scripto are smarter. But it's not that they're magically better because they use Scripto. Scripto allows those talented people more time to do their work, so they tend to put out a higher quality product.
Wow, fascinating! This is so interesting. And then, of course, I'm sure that COVID also brought in all kinds of need to be remote and yet be collaborative, and then kind of defeated a heavy application-based system right in its path. Because
he's got like 10 writers that are in a script every day, just refining and adding and subtracting, just all day long up to the point of producing. And the workflow before that, once again, it's final draft oriented, copy and paste that into something else. Eventually that goes to producers who have to create this run of show. And then eventually that goes all the way through to a teleprompter operator that needs to make sure what's in the teleprompter matches what the writers have done. The problem is in the previous way of doing it, if the writers change something, the chance that something doesn't get updated along this whole workflow from the rundown all the way through the prompter to information you're sharing with the network and advertisers, the odds that something will slip through the cracks essentially is great and happens a lot. And so having this cloud-based solution where a writer makes a change and everything's updated along the way, everybody's notified that something has changed and they're shown what it is that's changed, so that things don't slip through the cracks anymore. And so we've basically created a cohesive workflow from inception, from the written word, all the way through this data that flows through not just when you're producing, like the teleprompter and a variety show. Obviously, by the time it's on the prompter, you're producing a show. But then changes that happen later, like the network, the producers, people need that data. That data is important for myriad other use cases, whether it's through distribution or marketing. Like I said earlier, archival, even being able to tag these assets and recall them later. We maintain all of that data in a live state, whereas before Scripto, there was just PDF file. Writers write in Final Draft or another screenwriting application. They export a PDF. Those PDFs get emailed to a script coordinator usually, who has to figure out what version he's working with, hopefully make sure it's the right version, figure out what's changed between the versions, manually alert people. And there are some applications that make that easier, not on the writing part, but like once they're set up, at least there are applications that will do a distribution of, okay, I've got a new version of the script. I'm a writing, assistant or a production coordinator or writing a script coordinator. I can put it in an application. It'll email out to other people. But that's still a disjointed workflow. It's not actually connected to the work the writers are doing. And if writers are likely to make changes at any stage along a production, which they do, whether it's in variety or narrative scripted or corporate events or award shows, people are constantly writing. I mean, watch the Oscars. You've got to know that they're adjusting to things in real time while the show's on.
Wow.
So any ability to have a live data platform where the writers are connected to everybody else on the team creates levels of efficiency that just didn't exist before. So that was the goal when they started Scripto, and certainly they've achieved that. And it has enabled both, Stephen Colbert's The Late Show and a number of other very high-profile shows. The Emmy winners for weekly and daily variety last week for when we're filming, recording. What do we have? The Daily Show for daily variety, and last week tonight with John Oliver for weekly variety are both Scripto users. Those teams just work at a more efficient level, and they have more time to do that work.
Fascinating. This is so interesting. I mean, thanks for also that detailed description, because it kind of made the whole workflow come alive in front of our eyes. One curiosity I had was, you started talking about the genesis. At what point did it actually become this cloud-enabled system? Is it
a company? Yeah. So early on, like I said, it was a land-based solution,
right?
And Stephen Colbert is friendly with a number of the other late night variety hosts. They're a pretty tight group of people, and they became aware of Scripto, and they asked to use it and license it. And so now you had this land-based solution running on a server, sitting in a network closet on 3, 4, 5 shows around New York at the time. I'm in Los Angeles, but historically the company has been heavily weighted towards New York shows, and the staff as well was largely out of New York when it started, and it became untenable essentially when you've got 4 or 5 shows around New York City that have a server in their network closets, and it's the company simply wasn't at a scale and staffed appropriately to manage that, to keep growing it that way. And it became pretty obvious several years ago that they needed to re-architect the solution. So there were some new technical team members that came in and re-architected into a cloud-based solution that certainly creates scalability that didn't exist before. So now, we can light up customers around the world instantly, whereas before we needed to wheel in a server to do that. And in my work history, having launched digital dailies in 2002, I was certainly accustomed to wheeling in server racks to media enterprise organizations and having to manage and maintain and update all those systems. It's not easy.
Yes. And this is a perfect segue to sort of, figure out where your story gets intertwined with Scripto. How did that happen? And a little bit about your career history as well. You had a checkered career. You've been with some really, really exciting companies. So, Josh, take us through that journey a little bit.
Sure, happy to. So I came out of production myself after going to USC. I went and worked at a talent agency in the mailroom, up to the assistant to the head of motion picture talent. Along the way, realized I really wanted to work in production and be
Mm.
closer to the content creation. And so I worked in feature film production for a couple of years, and then I segued into music video and commercial production,
Mm.
while also working in development and writing. So I was kind of trying my hand at a number of things in the media and entertainment space. And along the way, so by the way, not only did I used to work at Final Draft, but I've actually written, I was a writer, and I'm a user of the software, at least I was. And along the way, when I was working in music video and commercial production, I became good friends with I was a production coordinator, became good friends with a stunt coordinator, and very bright guy who had an idea about, and by the way, this is like 1999, this is a minute ago.
Right.
It was just the advent of streaming media and downloadable video, and
That's right.
nobody was thinking about full screen, full motion video on their desktop or laptop computer at that point.
Yeah.
But this friend of mine had an idea about a startup that would allow people to share reels. So a reel, if you're a creative, an editor, director, an actor, you're sharing reels with people. That's your resume. And it was 3/4-inch pneumatic tape moving towards DVD. And this friend of mine thought, we should be able to do that better. There's got to be a way to do that on the internet. And he was sinking some resources into it and asked me to join him. And so I did. I joined a startup called samplereels.com. And we had a really, really elegant solution for vaulting video assets and then distributing them. And things looked very rosy. And then we marched head on into the dot-com bubble bursting.
Of course.
And everybody's businesses were collapsing, and we weren't generating any revenue. So we went from feeling there was no way we weren't going to raise a lot of money to there's no way we're going to raise any money.
Right.
And as a Hail Mary, I reached out to the media team at Microsoft because they were launching video tools for downloadable movies and streaming movies. And they were dominant just because of their size.
Right.
But they didn't have anybody that knew how to digitize movies. And because we were doing so many commercial reels and music video reels, we were quite good at it. And so they needed a partner in Hollywood. And so we became the primary provider of movie digitization services in the Hollywood area for the industry. And so now we're this digital dub house, but we were alive. And while we were doing that, we had an opportunity to regroup and really think about what was the best path forward. And we came out of production. We had an understanding about building online, basically creative-friendly user interfaces, and we could digitize the hell out of video. And so if you put that all in a cocktail shaker and pour it out, you end up with something called digital dailies. So we created, it's generally thought it's like a Xerox term, digital dailies, but we actually had the trademark and the domain name and
wow.
the platform to.
Gosh, this is such an industry term now.
Yeah. It's Kleenex, it's Xerox, it's digital dailies, but we actually planted the flag on the moon first.
Whoa.
So we had a patent around it. So we were early doors to this one, and it was a difficult sell at first because remember, people didn't really trust you could watch video securely on your computer in 2001 or so.
That's right.
So we spent a lot of time meeting with creatives and industry executives and demoing, and it took several years, but we got it there. We got it into a dominant position where we helped move an industry away from tape and DVD dailies. It had gone from film dailies, daily film,
Yeah.
and then it went to tape, then it went to DVD, and we were able to actually move that process entirely online.
Wow.
And so that was a great experience. It was a lot of work. We were rewarded for that years later. I led the team that won the Emmy for that. And ultimately, we sold that company. So that was a very positive experience, all in all.
Fascinating.
So
Fascinating.
a lot of my career was, spent getting that flywheel turning. Subsequent to that, I actually spun a startup out of that company, which was in the field of unique content identification, online metadata management, pretty early, and one could argue too early. It was really a supply chain startup, and it was
Yeah.
designed to create the ability to track assets online and monetize those assets.
Right.
And I thought that was a worthwhile endeavor, and it was I enjoyed running that company. And as timing would have it, we ran into the next global economic collapse with the housing market collapse, and so our investors were kneecapped like everybody else was, and so we needed to recap. They got kneecapped when we needed to recap.
Recap. That's a nice one, actually. Yeah. And so I'm guessing that's 2008, 2009 time
Yeah,
frame.
2009, and then we kept it limping along into 2010,
Okay.
and ultimately it just wasn't sustainable as a
Hmm.
standalone. So I ended up bringing my team and my clients over to Deluxe,
Aha.
and
Nice.
I set up a metadata services team there
Nice.
inside of Deluxe Digital Distribution, and so everybody got like safe harbor in stormy seas. Like it was a kind of a soft landing for a rough time.
Nice.
And while I was there, I got recruited, and this all comes around to Scripto, by the way. While I was there, I got recruited to join Final Draft, and
Aha.
because Final Draft, then as it is now, was standalone downloadable desktop software. And the founder, Mark Madnick,
Hmm.
knew that he needed to orient this company towards a SaaS model and collaborative writing and cloud-based solution, so that he wouldn't
Hmm.
be stewarding a dinosaur. And so I went to Final Draft for a couple of years. I was chief strategy officer and the head of online services, and we were building out a platform, a collaborative platform and community-oriented platform for writers to collaboratively write and share in a secure fashion
Hmm.
those assets. And so now we're into like 2000, I don't know, 2012 to 2014,
Okay.
that era.
Mhm.
And ultimately, he along the way changed his mind. He decided to sell the company.
Ah.
Felt it was the right time for him personally, and to be fair to him, he wasn't wrong. Like he probably maximized his return on that asset sale or that
Right.
company sale.
Hmm.
The downside is that ended the company's efforts to create a cloud-based solution.
Got it.
He ended up selling the company to Cast and Crew, which it was owned by one private equity firm at the time. It's owned by a different private equity firm now, and so that has a negative. Those types of transactions tend to have a negative impact on growth efforts
That's right.
and reinvesting. And so we're 10 years later, and Final Draft still isn't a cloud-based solution. Uh, I left Final Draft and I joined Box, the cloud content management company, where I was the head of media and entertainment. And so I was significantly involved in sort of bridging the needs of the media and entertainment community back into Box, which is a Silicon Valley based company. Great experience. Was recruited by Aaron Levy, the CEO, um, who was great to work for, and I really enjoyed that process. It's my first time working inside of a like hyper growth, hyper funded Silicon Valley startup. I was recruited in and joined Box pre to post IPO. I was there for
Hmm.
about 3 years, a little over 3 years, and had a really good experience. And I eventually left to do some other things outside of the media and entertainment space. I've been working on a couple of I had worked on a couple of startups,
Hmm.
launched a couple of startups in the impact space, in the sort of group planning space. Is really disconnected from everything else in my prior career,
Hmm.
and was still working on those. And I got a call. I got a call late 2023 about this company called Scripto.
Interesting.
And so at the same time I was outside of the media and entertainment space, Scripto had just gone through the pandemic, which had its positives and negatives. Positives were that there was all these proof points about how great this platform was for remote production,
Right.
right? Because nobody's
Yeah.
no writers' rooms during the pandemic,
That's right.
and so all of a sudden, Scripto had a tool that allowed people to work remotely very efficiently. So that was quite helpful.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, following the pandemic were the strikes,
That's right.
and the strikes pretty much shut everybody down. And so Scripto's a small company, and it was had a like everybody else had a very negative impact on their business. And coming out of the strikes, they were doing basically a strategic review about what does the future of this company look like, and what should they be aiming for as a company. And they'd reached out for some consultation with a gentleman by the name of Ethan Jacks, who is a banker and advisor in the media technology space. He had been the banker, in fact, and the reason they reached out to him, he'd been the banker that sold Final Draft to Casting Crew. So they thought, this guy probably knows what's going on in the space.
Right.
And he had some pretty specific thoughts about growth opportunities, and the idea that they should be looking to grow the company into different complementary media production categories. So not as tight a focus on variety and late night, all sorts of other opportunities that they could leverage their platform into. And Rob Dubbin, the founding CEO, said, I think that's right. I agree with that. And Stephen Colbert and his wife, Evie, who are both very involved in the company, also agreed.
Hmm.
But at the time, Rob said, if that's the path we're going to pursue as a company, I think we might benefit at this time from new leadership.
Okay.
And Ethan Jacks said, well, there's a guy I think you should talk to. So that's how this comes full circle. My life in production, to Final Draft, to Deluxe, to Box, to being out of media and entertainment, has me back in as the CEO of Scripto. So they reached out to me, and I started consulting for the company at the end of 2023. Did a lot of work with Rob, the founding CEO, as well as Stephen and Evie Colbert. Worked on a strategic plan, what I thought the best opportunity and way to go forward looked like. And we got to consensus on a plan. And I took over as CEO in April of 2024. So I'm only several months into this. And we've added to the team. We're building out features outside of the variety late night format. We continue to support that and build features there because we're strong in that space. There's all sorts of opportunities across narrative scripted and video games. We've got video game studios that license Scripto for narrative video games. We've got podcast studios that are licensing us. We've just signed a couple of award shows.
Oh, wow.
These are all the reason why I call it operating system for scripted media production instead of screenwriting is because there's a lot of scripted media that never ends up on a script or on a screen, right? An award show,
That's right.
just be a live event. Corporate events are live events oftentimes. So live theater, which we haven't even spent any time attacking that market yet, could absolutely benefit from Scripto. So there's all these categories that are very complementary, that share a lot of the same underpinnings, that represent opportunity for us to branch into. And they all have their own supply chain quirks and requirements. And I just think we've got a lot of opportunity to sort of open up into complementary markets.
Fascinating. This is again, Josh. This made the story come alive again in terms of not only where the company is and where it's headed, but also the several paths that you could take. and talk a little bit about those aspects. As you sort of planning the next few sort of quarters. By the
Yeah,
way, also a little bit about how 2024 has been, especially with the end of the strikes.
sure.
And then, I was also curious, just to put a pin on this, which is what do the other markets and countries do? Uh, are they on final draft? Are they already sort of reaching out to you
Yeah,
like crypto?
yeah. Let's attack that one first. So
Okay.
other markets where they're writer dependent. So video narrative video games, oftentimes those are TV and film writers that are hired to write for a video game.
Hmm.
So they're used to being in a final draft environment. And by the way, for the people viewing this and aren't familiar with final draft, it's often thought of as the Microsoft Word of Hollywood. So it is an industry and format specific word processor. There are a number of features that are like writer oriented and production oriented, but at its core, it
Right.
is a format specific word processor.
Hmm.
So that if you're writing for film, TV, or scripted media, people know you can just jump into Final Draft. There's a tab sequence that goes from the different elements, for your character name to a parenthetical to dialogue to action. It's just people can write. It's like shorthand, basically. And so, um, in all these other categories that need writers, professional writers, those writers tend to be Final Draft writers because it's the dominant. It's a de facto standard in the
Right.
entertainment industry. And so, what you'll have is a situation where, for instance, at a video game studio, you'll have narrative writers writing dialogue and associated, text around that for the game, and then the people that actually have to compile that game have to get that dialogue, move it into oftentimes spreadsheets or Airtable,
Hmm.
something that's accessible to the people that compile the information and feed it into the game engine.
Right.
So just like, there's no sort of cloud solution that takes it from writing through, the prompter without Scripto into the video game development market. You've got people that have their own disjointed workflows. So
Right.
they're writing in Final Draft, and then they're copying and pasting that into a spreadsheet or Airtable, and then somebody has to wire up that Airtable into the game engine. You've
Hmm.
got all these like disconnected steps, these kind of air gapped steps,
Right.
and it's inefficient. And so, one thing that Scripto does that's pretty unique is that every block of text, any type of text format within Scripto, is uniquely identified. Uh, but they all have unique identifiers,
Whoa.
and the Scripto is an API accessible platform, so that the people that create tooling at game studios uh, can actually just call on any block of text within the script to feed it into the game engine as they need it. So Scripto becomes a programmatic feeder of this information in
Fascinating.
the game engine instead of copying and pasting into something else that gets fed into the game engine. So once again, it cuts out this intermediate inefficient step that creates errors and delays. And now it's programmatic. We just feed the data into the game engine. So that's an example of how do you bring efficiency to a market that
Right.
is about scripted media. And granted, nobody needs Scripto for Candy Crush because there's no dialogue in it. But all these narrative video games have to have some way of writing and
Hmm.
getting the dialogue into the game engine. And so we create a very efficient way to do that. So that's a pretty new market for us. And
Okay.
in fact, the gentleman I mentioned earlier, Rob Dubbin, the founding CEO, he hasn't left the company. I mean, I'm there at his invitation, but he and I work very closely together. He remains at the company as the head of video games.
Okay.
He has a specific interest in that. He's a video game developer himself. So he's leading those efforts for us. And so he brings some expertise in that field as well.
Hmm.
So we keep investing resources and building out our solution there as well. This is our first year where we've had a couple of games that actually one has already come to market. We've got a couple others coming to market. So now we've got some things to point at and talk to other gaming studios around and point to the efforts that have resulted in publicly available games at this point.
Fascinating, and that is such a large market worldwide,
Yeah,
massive.
we know in the United States that we're past peak TV,
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean that the amount of scripted content globally across all categories is coming down,
that's right.
right? Whether it's video games or podcasts,
Yep.
corporate video is massive. Like every big corporation is a media corporation. They all have
Right.
internal scripted media assets and they hold events. And so corporate media is growing very large. I started to see that when I was at Box. We could just
Right.
see how many assets our large corporate customers had, video assets. And so we started to think about, well, yeah, every major corporation is actually a media centric corporation at this point. So we're really excited about all these growth opportunities.
Hmm.
And then when you've got a market where, like narrative scripted film and TV, especially in the United States, when it's in decline in terms of the volume being produced, um, that's a different, I wouldn't just say challenge, it's a different opportunity for a company like Scripto, because those markets are looking for ways to do things more efficiently,
Right.
right? There's less money being thrown around because there's less content being produced. So now we've got an opportunity to sell into that market and provide a solution that brings efficiency and time saving to those producers and those writers. So it's a different sale. It's a different value proposition, right? When you have a market that's exploding and needs tools to actually get their hands around how you do that. So for instance, we're starting to have discussions in the content creator space. So high value content creators, YouTube
Right. Of
channels.
course. Yeah.
Um, this isn't just one person walking down the street selfieing video. We're talking about people with camera crews and sponsors and agencies. That's scripted media production, and that's explosive. Like that's massive market,
Right.
and not getting smaller anytime soon. So they've sort of led the way with analytics and how to drive engagement around those channels. And so now we've got an opportunity. But by the way, they're used to maybe Final Draft, maybe Google Docs, So now we get to actually deliver an advanced solution to
Hmm.
those teams to help them on the scripting and the production data to actually make that part of the process like a modern, efficient workflow as well.
Fascinating. I mean, all three that you talked about are just actually all four: podcasts, YouTube, gaming, um, uh, and corporate. I
Yeah,
think all these four segments are just massive, and they have very different use cases and very different workflows. One question I was curious then, Josh, was relating to how would they find you today? Like, what
sure.
specific pain point should they be in right now? That was one question, and the related one is: does crypto have to integrate with certain systems that you are using today?
Sure.
Where
Yeah. Okay, so how they find us? Well, the URL is scripto.live.
okay,
That's how they find us.
perfect.
And if anybody watching this wants to talk to me directly, feel free to email me at josh@scripto.live. Um, we get a fair amount of inbounds from people that are just online searching for cloud-based script or screenwriting applications.
Okay,
So, the SEO works, the search works. But yeah, if you want to come specifically right to us, reach out and happy to provide, live demos. Got all sorts of assets we can share with people that can educate you about what the platform does. Um, and in terms of the integrations,
right,
so, when I joined the company, I think one could say we were more work group oriented in our sales outreach. It was shows. And
right,
in fact, it felt very similar to when I started selling the digital daily service to customers. It was show by show by show. And you get super excited, and we got a big show, and that was a huge thing. But eventually, that's a very difficult way to scale a business. And so I was pretty clear when I joined that I wanted to maintain our connections into the creative community. I never want to walk away from the actual creators of the content, but I want to have a tighter focus on the enterprise. And so that necessarily leads one in the direction of integrations.
Right.
So we are not there yet.
Hmm.
We've got some customers and some prospective customers that would like to see us have like an Okta integration, single sign-on integrations, and we have to do that. Like there's no way we get to play in the enterprise sandbox unless we have those tools in place. And so that's on our roadmap. We've got resources being deployed in that area. Another area, when I think about integration, it's another growth area to be sure, is AI. And where does Scripto fit in the world of AI tools?
Right.
And I've been very careful since I joined. This is when you're dealing with creatives, AI sometimes can be like the third rail.
Yep.
And, none of the writers we work with, or very few of the writers we work with, want to talk about Scripto and generative AI assisted writing. Like there are interesting use cases that some want to talk about, but holistically, that's like kind of a third rail, and it's unsettled how that's going to play out in the community. So my intention since I joined was to be a neutral player, to keep building this API accessible platform out so that we represent a critically important part of an AI stack, right? We're not an AI R&D company. We're not developing AI tools. But at its heart, when you think about AI in the media space, so unless it's something like Runway, where you're feeding in rich media and it's manipulating it for many of their tools or other AI tools,
Right.
Where you're trying to, move past rotoscoping with AI features, you're putting rich media in and getting, AI enhanced rich media out.
Right.
That's not where we play. All of the other tools take text input, right? You're chatting your way through AI.
That's right.
And oftentimes, like the vast majority of times, what you're trying to get on the other side is informed by text, and that text is generally derivative of the script. So where we're at in AI today is analogous to a final draft type workflow where people write in Final Draft or another script writing piece of software. They export a PDF because writers do not like sharing native files.
Right.
Then some other tool, some AI tool, will import a PDF and create some AI output. So once again, we've got a disjointed workflow. Writers do one thing, then they email usually that file or Dropbox it or something else, send that file to somebody else who then is running the AI tools. They import that in, and then they carry on from there.
Right.
The reason I think Scripto has a critically important place in the AI stack is that we have a live data platform. So the writers write, somebody else who has access privileges to the platform
Is sort of consuming that.
Is consuming that information.
Right.
And we will build out those integrations. This goes back to your AI or your integrations question. We will facilitate those integrations to the AI tool of choice, as opposed to us picking what you're going to use. Bring your AI tool of choice. We'll work on those integrations and we'll make the data API accessible. And it's not just the convenience of the first time feeding the data. So imagine you've got a tool that's storyboarding out a sequence, and that is being fed from the screenplay.
Right.
And if your AI tool is sophisticated enough, it will analyze the entire screenplay, have an understanding of those characters and how they interact with one another. And now you'll have like a locked set of data about a character. right? So
Right.
that'll carry on no matter what. The AI knows who that character is, what they look
Yes.
like. You never have to go back and kind of fix that again.
Right. Right.
But you may change within your script how the characters interact with one another or their environment. But you've got a complete set of storyboards for a scene.
Right.
And today you're now waiting for a PDF to show up with changes. And you've got to figure out what the diff is between those two sets
Yeah.
of changes. But now if you've got live data, you're actually feeding that information in real time into your AI tool. The storyboards are being
Updating.
updated based on that. And the person who needs to get those storyboards or
Hmm.
approve those storyboards is being notified that they are done and updated, as opposed to, hey, here's a new PDF. You need to be in a place like in front of your laptop or desktop, like where you can actually just make sure you got the right PDF. It's the right version. You're going to upload it into the tool and make sure that that is all done properly. Now you just be notified that it's done.
That is insanely clever. I mean, what you just
So,
described. When are you launching this, Josh? Again, I'm
yeah,
teasing you, but essentially, just the way you described it, especially for a live system to register those changes and then make those versions.
yeah. So we're starting to build out some POCs right now.
Okay,
I can tell you that we've signed partnership agreements with AWS and Adobe.
nice.
So we're pretty focused on like bringing value to those relationships.
Mhm.
Um, so they've got differing, sometimes aligned, and sometimes not out of alignment, but just uniquely oriented AI strategies.
Right.
So we're having discussions with both of those partners. We've got some independent partners that we're also talking to, meeting with one tomorrow that's got a pretty advanced visualization tool that I'd hope that, as we roll into Q1, like we just started Q4, right? I think
Yep,
so.
that's right.
No, we're a week away from Q4. So as we design these POCs, just resource dependent, engineering resource dependent, I'd hope we'd be in a position to show some POCs Q1 2025 that show in real time exactly what I just described.
Fascinating, fascinating. This is so. I think already a few plans seem to be sort of rolling out from from how you described it. It's these different verticals that you talked about. It's some of these integration points. There is a human workflow meets a an AI sort of outputting for
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of downstream use cases. That sounds like another set of expansion. You have your hands full. How's the is there an international expansion component as well? Within
Yeah.
the scheme of things.
So on that front, phase one of that is, so we're not localized to other languages yet. And I know that gets easier and easier every day,
Yes.
but it's no matter what, it's still work.
Yes.
So phase one of that was also why I was at IBC in Amsterdam and then spent a
Okay.
couple of days in London at the tail end of that. And that is about meeting with, prospective customers in the UK,
Nice.
English language territories where we don't have to localize the software and we can just, light up another AWS instance over there and be good to go. So I'd expect we're going to be doing some demos, some testing and some demos with some UK prospective customers right away, like in the next
Nice.
couple of weeks. So I do have my eye towards international expansion. I think it's critically important because sometimes, we're past peak TV in the US before that happens elsewhere. So, we're not always in phase with our international market partners.
Hmm.
And so we've got to have an opportunity to sell into international markets. But step one is going where the English language speakers are.
Right.
And once we, have some a foothold there, then we can turn our attention towards localizing the software.
Nice, nice, fascinating. And again, Australia. We just since we're talking about English-speaking languages, language markets, Australia is super hot. There
Yeah,
are just so
Canada,
many.
Australia, UK, Ireland, South Africa, uh, and then within other countries that aren't primarily English language speakers, there's lots of English language opportunities.
Yes,
So anywhere we see opportunity and we've got the bandwidth to engage, we'll engage.
fantastic, fantastic. This is great, Josh. I think we covered a lot of ground. Described the whole platform very very eloquently. I think it must have sparked off lots of thought bubbles in our listeners' heads, especially those who are currently sort of facing the exact pain points of disconnected scripts and disconnected writing workflows. I think this would have definitely triggered lots of ideas.
Yeah, I hope it opens up like a thought process um, where it's just so much beyond, especially when we talk about supply chain. Your audience, your network is going to be maybe less focused on, oh, it's a collaborative script writing application, because that's just one part of it. It's
Right.
what happens after the script's written and what happens as the script keeps getting updated by writers. How does that affect the rest of us in the supply chain? Right. And so I think that's a unique value proposition for Scripto. It's a live data platform that feeds from the writers all the way through the long tail.
The one aspect that we didn't talk about, but maybe if you can just fleetingly sort of address that'd be awesome. I found it super useful just to visualize the solution. Is when you talked about scheduling, when you talked about inventory of props, when you talked about a lot of other dependencies that typically flow from the script, that essentially has a flow down effect. I talked a little bit about that piece. Actually, I thought that was super useful when we last spoke.
Sure, sure. So there are dominant players along the way. And for production by production, I'm not talking about like an ERP level solution. Production by production, we think of budgeting and scheduling. We think about like movie magic budgeting and movie magic scheduling. That have been around since I was in commercial production, and like they weren't new when I was in commercial production 25 years ago.
Hmm.
So they're ingrained. Everybody came up using them, and they're owned by a company called Entertainment Partners (EP),
Yes.
which is
Okay.
at heart it's a payroll company, just like the company that owns Final Draft is a payroll company. These are software solutions that feed into a payroll pipeline, and so they're, movie magic scheduling and budgeting, for instance, are entrenched in the industry for people who budget and schedule films. And they are developing more and more cloud connectors, essentially, less than, re-architecting the entire solution, just ways of getting data in and out of those solutions. And,
Hmm.
and so there are efforts underway there. And I've had the benefit of, working with those teams over the years. And so we have an eye towards integrating with them as well,
Got
because
it.
that's a step that comes after the breakdown.
Right.
Right? The breakdown is that the breakdown we can do with current resources,
Right.
because the breakdown is a data transformation from this scene is at this location. I've identified these props or these vehicles, these actors. So you're talking about talent, you're talking about locations, you're talking about set decoration,
Right.
and all those things go into a breakdown to alert the department heads of their responsibilities for what needs to be present in that scene to film,
Right.
right, or to
Wow.
record. And that, excuse me, that data changes depending on changes in the script.
Hmm.
And we have concrete examples of where things go awry when what happens with the writers isn't communicated all the way through to the people that have to physically produce the content. And in fact, we've got one, like a comedic one, from The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, which
Hmm.
is there was a skit that had a goat in it.
Oh wow.
And uh, before they actually were going to, record that evening's show, that skit had been cut from the script. So this is pre-Scripto. And as they were, getting ready to record the show, there was an animal handler backstage walking around with a goat. And the producers were like, why the hell is there a goat walking around back here? And it's because the information that started with the writers didn't get communicated out to the director and the producers. And that put a fine focus on the need to connect what the writers were doing with what was being produced and put on air.
Fascinating. This is
kind of imagine that across any content category.
that is just fascinating. I mean, again, just talks about the whole live cloud connected system that is always updated with all of these changes that are happening upstream.
Right. So what we'll do is we want to be in a position to feed that data, excuse me, to feed that data to the budgeting and scheduling solutions. Now, those are complex solutions, and they've been refined over, 20, 30 years.
Right.
So my goal is not to go hard charging into, and we'll also do your budgeting and scheduling. That is not something Scripto is designed to do.
Right.
We respect expertise in other areas and also industry dominance. There's only there's a number of script writing applications out there that were around when I was at Final Draft, and some of them are quite good. That actually have some cloud capability, collaboration, but I know what Final Draft's market share was 10 plus years ago, and it's about the same today.
Right.
So, at some point, you got to respect industry dominance.
That's right.
And then figure out how to work with it.
Yep.
And so we want to be able to be that connector essentially into budgeting and scheduling solutions and other solutions that need data from the script. That's it. It's always starting with the script and being transformed into something else. And other solutions need that information. And we're uniquely qualified and capable of feeding that data to those solutions. So I think we've got a very unique spot in the supply chain. Right. And with regard to Final Draft, I think I mentioned I used to work there. I'm still friendly with people that work there. I'm not going to market attacking Final Draft. That's what the other screenwriting only software companies do. That's what they do. We're better than the Final Draft because of this. It's fine. Everybody should be competing as aggressively as they can. Right. I'm going to market with Scripto by providing a solution that can exist with Final Draft, can interoperate with the Final Draft file format, but can do things Final Draft can't do. So my focus is on, putting a focus on what Scripto can do that Final Draft can't do in the area of collaboration and the area of API accessibility of the data and in integrating with third parties. So I apologize. Sorry. Essentially, we get to a place where if somebody's, grown up using Final Draft, they've come up in the industry using Final Draft, they don't need to collaborate as they write their script. It's fine.
Yeah.
At the point at which you either need to collaborate with other writers in the same environment, or you need to share data with downstream partners or members of your crew and staff, move that project into Scripto, and we will take it from there.
Got it. Fascinating. Again, always a learning experience talking to you about both the process, the workflow, as well as the solution. Josh, I know you've got a sort of very busy rest of the year and lots of new, things coming out of the bag of goodies that you are creating at Scripto. I just want to thank you for sharing a host of these insights and your plans as well as the background of the company. I wanted to wish you all the very best in all your adventures going forward.
Well, like I started with, thank you so much for inviting me on, sharing this information with your network, allowing me an opportunity to talk about what we do. I'm very excited about the opportunities from your network, the Trina network. I think it's a great group, and I'm really excited to bring value to it, and see how we can derive value from participating in that community.
Fantastic.
It's always a pleasure talking with you. So thanks, and I look forward to talking with you soon on camera and not.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you very much.
Great.